Welcome to the Unknown Options, the place where we explore the unknown options. Today we have with us Lorence, vet to tech BDR. Tell us a little about yourself, Lorence.
Hey, Will, thanks for having me on the call today. Yeah, just a little bit about me. My name is Lawrence. I was born and raised in the Philippines, and my family and I moved here in 2004. And like what you said, I was in the military, United States Marine Corps, and now I work in technology, in particular the cyberspace, as a BDR, business development representative. And what we do ultimately, we're part of what I would consider the inside sales role in the corporate world. And what we do ultimately is we help enable account executives, account managers, and people selling in the field to do their job efficiently and effectively. And how we do that is typically what my day to day looks like is, I wake up, open up the email, and I'm doing some follow ups on the emails. And so a lot of what we do is outreaching, whether that's cold, warm, when you get some leads. But yeah, so the idea is, you're working from an inside sales kind of role perspective, and you're helping develop some of these accounts, meet personas along the way, such as C-level executives, CIOs, CISOs, and then all the way down to network engineers. And so really, it's a really high pace, interesting, but also very rewarding sales job. And I would consider it as the early position for sales. And there's other positions similar to it. Others have called it SDR, which is sales development representative, which is another piece of the inside sales department. And I would say the SDR role is more of a inbound type, where the leads are a little bit warmer and the outreach is a little bit softer. Where the BDR side, where it's mostly typically cold calls and cold outreaches. And so, those are, I would say the BDR and the SDR are really the entry level for becoming an account executive, and continuing the path in the rest of your sales career.
Okay, awesome. That was a very thoughtful answer. I would say, how important are BDRs and SDRs to a sales organization, in your
Yeah,
opinion?
yeah, absolutely. I think they're they're such a big portion, in a sense that imagine this, it's like when you're developing business, um, you have existing business, but ultimately you're going to need net new business to support the rest of your growth of your business. And so the idea of these business development representatives are the BDRs. Think of us as sharks, you know what I mean, or farmers. This is an analogy, hunters and farmers. And so, there's hunters, which is the SDRs, and BDRs were the hunters. And what that means is, we go out searching for new business. And really, with that comes a lot of challenges, but also um, a lot of fun. Um, a lot of the days are different, and it's always high pace. And I mean, there are slower seasons, of course, different quarters for everybody. But I would say the reason why they're so important to the organization is they're kind of, I guess, the forefront or the first line of defense when it comes to a sales org. And so having really good interactions with BDRs, SDRs, and inside sales role people really sets a tone for the rest of that business, right? Because a lot of what business does, a lot of business is a lot about first impression and leaving a good impact so that you can create those champions to then deliver the rest of the product value. That makes sense?
That makes perfect sense to me. I guess I want to go take it a little back. Tell us a little bit more about how Lawrence became a BDR. Maybe your journey from even probably before a vet. I don't know how long you were in the military for. The audience doesn't know how long you've been in the military for. So take us a little journey on, like, from maybe high school to college, maybe to military, to how you end up becoming
Yeah, yeah,
becoming.
absolutely. That's it's I don't think we'd have enough time today to do all that, but I can tell you a little bit chapters of my life. Like I mentioned earlier, I was born and raised in the Philippines, and so, looking back in my life now, a lot of what I have and a lot of the foundations I have built for my life is based where I come from, and my upbringings, right? And so take that into where I come now. My family moved in 2004, like I said. Uh, and we moved here in the US, made a life for ourselves in the Midwest, and then, was an immigrant. We had a green card, and then along the way, as we applied for the citizenship. I got that right before graduating high school, and then right after high school, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with my life yet. A lot of my friends, went to uh, college right away. They decided they knew what they wanted and so forth. But the reality was, I'm the oldest of four, and as immigrants, and my parents and my family, we didn't have a lot growing up, and so college wasn't really a first option for me, as I would say. It was, I had to figure out my way, and I really didn't want to put the burden on my mom, as having four kids, of having to take that responsibility to pay for my education. As you know, I mean, education alone is, an average is what, 15, 20,000 a year,
Yeah,
if that,
maybe higher than
maybe higher
that.
than that, and the reality is most of my family's still in the Philippines. And so logistically and financially, it didn't make sense that I could expect that from anybody. And so I took it upon myself. I just remember right after, I think it's spring of high school, everyone was taking the ACT. I took it, you know what I mean? See what I did? I didn't
Yeah.
do so hot, but like I did decent. I did decent. I did decent.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
average, let's say.
Yeah.
But right after that, I decided I was like, I got to see what's out there. I went to the recruiting station, and it was crazy because um, I went there with a friend because we were ultimately going to do a buddy program. So, see what it's like and just kind of exploring together.
Yeah.
We go there together and we get to the parking lot. We realize all the recruiting stations are closed
Oh
except
wow.
one, except one, and happened to be the Marine Corps.
Wow.
And so we're like, all right, like we're already here, like screw it. Like there's no, like we drove all the way here. So we walk in and this dude, I can't even, I'm not even kidding. He's watching a YouTube video of someone playing a video game, and it happened to be a video game that we were playing before we drove over to go to the recruiting station.
Was it Call of Duty?
No, it was League of Legends
Okay,
online.
wow. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
we were PC gaming, you know what I'm saying, back in
Okay,
the day.
yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
PC gaming, and we were watching him. We're like, shut the shit. He's literally playing the game. And we're like, this is meant to be. Like
Yeah.
we were meant to be here. So we sit down, all excited and nervous at the same time. Ultimately, I joined the Marine Corps right after high school, and then right after boot camp, I spent 3 months in San Diego for boot camp, and then right after boot camp, I went to ITB, which is Infantry Training Battalion. And
Okay.
what it is, my main MOS in the military was 0311, and what that means is I was in the infantry.
Okay.
And so really the first line of deployment and the people, going out there deploying in the Middle East. Of course, there are other sections of the military that's not in the infantry. Actually, a
Mhm.
larger portion of the military is not in the infantry. And so it's really interesting. But before that, before going into my first company, I was at ITB in San Diego, and I finished that training. I think that was actually one of the harder trainings I've ever had, just because I was really young,
Yeah.
and man, we had some long days out there hiking. I
Yeah.
don't wish it upon my worst enemy. I'll just say that.
Oh man.
And after that, I got stationed right away to 29 Palms. Are you familiar at all with 29 Palms, California?
I am not. I'm an East
Okay.
Coast boy, so
Okay, yeah. So you got the swamps and the jungle out
yeah.
here in the east.
Yeah.
No, I say that because of Camp Lejeune, and they it's grassy and moist over there.
Yeah,
But
my dad was Marine. He went to
oh, there you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you know about Camp Lejeune.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. But I was stationed in 29 Palms. So think about that, Camp Lejeune, but completely opposite in the desert. 29
Mm,
Palms is actually located by the Mojave Desert in California and Nevada. So just really that the border. And so, oh man, it was. Some people would say it's hell on earth because of how hot it is,
yeah.
but that made a man out of me. I'll be
Mm,
honest with you. That made a man out of me because the people I met in that time of my life changed a lot to become who I am today and who the person and the man I am today.
nice.
And I'm forever grateful for the people I met there, man, because I really believe, I was walking around, as the saying would say, amongst giants. And I really felt that with some of
Mm,
the leaders I had. Because when you think about it, being in the infantry and being in 29 Palms, deploying to the Middle East, or in particular Iraq, a lot what we did, there's a lot of trust in that, right? A
yeah.
lot of trust, a lot of bond, a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah.
And so they become family. And so when you do something that big of organization, that you create a bond of a family with, you know, there's leaps of years that you don't have to go out talking, but you know they got your back no matter what happens. And so
Definitely.
that really impacted who I was, and the value I learned in that point of my life, but also how hardship, what it takes and how hard it is, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And so after I got stationed out to 29 Palms, the company I was with is 1st Battalion, 7th Marines, Baker Company, first platoon in particular. And man, I couldn't have wished for or hoped for a better career in the military and joined that battalion. It's a decorated battalion, a lot of famous Marines and people, and a lot of wars that the battalion has fought in. And then beyond that, after joining that battalion, we got deployed right away to the Middle East in the Al Anbar province. And this was in the efforts of Syria. Do you remember when that initial crisis in Syria was happening with ISIS and stuff?
Was that like 2016?
Yep, yeah, 2015, like right
Like
around that time.
Obama, under
Yep,
Obama?
yep, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
To be honest, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It's been so long. It's crazy how long it's
Yeah,
been, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah. So that era, we were one of the first people in that back in Iraq, back in the Middle East,
Yeah.
to be there and to help the people for that situation, and that taught me a lot about life. Imagine a kid that comes from the island of the Philippines, who
Yeah.
he's all seen is the Philippines,
Yeah.
and that's a whole different long story in itself. But
Yeah.
imagine never leaving the island to now being in the Middle East around
Mm.
people who all look the same, but they all somewhat, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you're in a whole different environment. And so, um, it was a lot. I learned a lot of life lessons during that time, a lot of long nights, no sleep, and a lot of good times.
Yeah.
So, it was a blessing for sure. But after that, after my deployment, I got selected to become an instructor, actually. I
Mm.
became an instructor at the Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia.
Okay.
Do you know where that is as well, or no?
I know vaguely where Quantico is.
Sure,
I've been
sure.
to
So
Virginia one time.
Quantico, there's a show on Netflix, actually. It's about the FBI Academy.
Okay.
And that's where the FBI Academy is, actually. It's Quantico as well.
Okay.
And it's, I would say, like 45 minutes south of DC. So it's just like in the DMV area, District, Maryland area,
Okay.
and, south of Arlington. But yeah, so I spent some time at Quantico, and I was selected for an instructor at the Officer Candidate School. And
Okay.
what this means is that with my experience and expertise in infantry, they were looking to have my guidance and become an instructor to lead and influence new officers in the military. And so there's two sides in the military. There's the enlisted side and the officer sides. And the
Okay.
officer typically, some of the requirements are a graduate, bachelor's, or some sort of college education. And so that's how you go that route. Where the enlisted side, you don't necessarily have to be, you can just go off right out of high school. And so I came from on this side of the house of being an enlisted to now instructing officer as an enlisted. So you see how, like,
Yeah.
where the rank structure, differs. And it was a really cool experience. I went from fighting a war, going to this war, being in the Middle East, to now then teaching and coaching, mentoring young officers in the military. And some of these officers were, right after college. Some of them have been in the military for a long time, coming back and becoming an officer, and going to school and stuff like that. And so the gaps were so different. Actually, the funny story, at one point, as I was an instructor there, one of the candidates I had actually happened to be one of my drill instructors when I was going through boot camp.
Wow.
And I come up to him, he's like standing position of attention, all erect, like, like military, like not saying anything. I go, "Hey, candidate, do you remember me?" And he's like, "No, corporal." He's like, "This candidate has seen, yada yada yada." He's giving out the BS. I was like, "You're my drill instructor. Can you believe that? The tables have turned." And then I started out laughing. I was like, "Run!" And he just starts running.
What?
And so it was a really eye-opening, but also, like, I felt it was really humbling experience
Yeah.
because I got to give back, and it was really nice because it might not be, they, of course they're going to go into many other schools, but just to be some of the first people that they see in the military and to
Yeah.
leave a good impact and good influence and hopefully a positive one as well.
Yeah.
I think that also leaves and makes more great leaders in this world.
Definitely.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, so I became an instructor there. And the role that we would do is we would instruct, for example, like fire maneuver tactics,
Okay.
buddy pairs, whether in a fire team or a squad formation. We would talk about how to methodically approach different scenarios and why that makes sense. And the section that I was in charge of, or really leading, or be a part of, was the land navigation section, in particular outside land navigation. So I would help candidates. I would run courses and events in relation to doing land navigation operations. So they would get a compass, they would get a map, and then they would have to use, the terrain features to be able to locate where the next, location is for the next stop to get, resources or be in this position for this mission. And so that was really where the bread and butter, what I was doing at OCS. But ultimately, it was a really cool position. And then after OCS, I left the military, honorably discharged, really happy about what I've done and really excited to start on college. And then I joined the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Nice.
Go Badgers, you know what I'm saying? We bleed red in this city. And so my family still lives in Madison, Wisconsin. So I went to school there, finished with a bachelor's degree in science in consumer behavior and marketplace studies, and minors in business, entrepreneurship, and design strategy. And
Nice.
so I kind of got bored. I kind of had to get the, like, the one bachelor and the multiple minor kind of thing. I don't know. I just couldn't help it.
Sounds good. I never heard of that. I never heard of that that major though. So
Sure,
that's
sure.
pretty.
Yeah, yeah. I could tell you a little bit about it. It's actually really interesting. Consumer behavior, right? The idea is you're taking macroeconomics
Mhm.
and adding psychology into it, and you're understanding human behavior, market movements, and for example, the hedonic treadmill or other different things of why we do what we do in the
Okay.
market, in the economy. So it was actually really unique, and in a way, actually, I think it has influenced how I approach being a BDR now, right?
Okay.
Because a lot of this being business development is being able to read the room. And
Yeah.
the reality is, in business, you have to read the room. You could be the biz sales, you can have the biz sales pitch, but if
Yeah.
you don't know how to read the room, what are you doing? Get
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You didn't get the door slammed out of you. So I think being consumer behavior, understanding what ticks, what drives the motivation. For example, a big thing in the BDR world we talk about are pain points,
Yeah.
and drawing out pain points in customers and understanding the use cases, and really finding the good fit. And so it was really into consumer behavior. I learned a lot in that major, and it was actually really interesting. And some of the classes that I got to take it was a great university overall. And then after that, during my time there, I was the president of a student org club
Mhm.
called Student Veterans of America, which is bigger national organizations focused on awareness in veteran and military connected education, and then also as well like employment and careers. And so really just supporting the veteran community. But there was a chapter at the university, and I chose to become a president. So I did that, did advocacy, did a little bit of things, helped start a nonprofit called OVS, Objective Veteran Smile, local to Madison. And the focus of that is plugging veterans with dental insurance, because one of the biggest things that happened after you get out of the military is that there's not TRICARE anymore. And TRICARE is what the military, when you're in the military, that's what you receive. Three
Okay.
different kinds of insurance to show you're covered fully, holistically. Once you get out, you can have some sort of dental issues. The VA doesn't cover that, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes the reality is the VA doesn't have always the best support.
Yeah.
And so the idea of OVS, Objective Veteran Smile, was to connect veterans with local dentist practitioners who would, give them a discount, and we would then pay the pocket of the bill on the veteran's behalf. And then so that way we see the value, right? When you shake somebody's hand for an interview, what's the first thing you do? You smile,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
if and so smiling, that first smile really leaves a big impact of interactions. And so, we want to at least help facilitate and enable career movement and career opportunities. So that's why OBS got started. Right now, it's successful. There's multiple different dental practitioners around Wisconsin that have agreed and have a program. So it's really exciting. I'll share more about it in the next podcast if I come back,
Definitely.
but
Oh, you
I'll
will be
share more
back.
about you as well. So I did that while I was there, and then during that time being chapter president for SBA, helping OVS, and being really part of the organic, organic foundation of that. I then also got my real estate license. And I then joined a company called 360 Commercial Real Estate. And I was doing that for a little while. And then from there, I was really just an associate, really helping out with property management because it was both commercial and a property management company.
Okay. Yeah.
And so it was a smaller firm. It wasn't big at all, but the idea was that I wanted to get exposure to the real estate market.
Mm.
I wanted to understand, multi-tenant, multi-agent agency, or looking at, what a buyer's, the rules and the regulations are, and how that could benefit the buyer and the other and the seller, and also kind of having like a holistic understanding of like where, you know, the intention and interests align really for different parties, because I think in real estate, especially in bigger real estate business, like that can also get really clouded, right? Like,
Yeah.
the interests of the agent has to, of course, align one way or the other. And so, just kind of getting experience on that was really interesting. And then being able to really learn from somebody who was a veteran in the community was really cool as well. And understanding how commercial real estate worked, and how to, look at a building and look at some appraisals. But yeah, so it was a short time. I only did it for a season. And then it was a timing where I was graduating college,
Mm.
got that real estate license, and really with that, my next goal is to do real estate. But now my focus interest is actually doing investment and just really holding assets for long term, especially if I have the ability to utilize the VA home loan. It's like, why
Mm.
not? And so that's
Yeah.
really where, joining and getting my real estate license and getting exposure to that market was really the interest. And I know that like when you want to get good at something, you just have to dive into it. And so
100%.
for me, it was getting the real estate license, and now I'm really interested.
Yeah.
And so, I graduated college, really interested in real estate. It's like, what do I do?
Mm.
It happened to be that when I was the student president of this a student org, I go to this annual trip that they're hosting. It's a summit in Disneyland, or is it Disney World? One of the two, but it's the one in Florida. I don't know which
Yeah.
one that one is called.
I think that's Disney. I'm going there in a few months. I think I don't. I'm not that big. I'm not that big on music parks. But I'm going there in a few months. But I think it's Disneyland in Florida. Yeah, I think it's Land. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So going to Disneyland, it was really cool because I got to go there, represent, the student org I was part of for one, but also
Mhm.
meet other leaders in the community. And that was really empowering. But also there, they happened to have a career fair. And guess what? The employer that I'm with now happens to be there. And
That's
I
crazy.
was like, no way, and they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're looking for more veterans. We were trying to grow out the network, and I was like, amazing. Stayed in touch, really networked, try to understand what the role was, and if I was a good fit. And
Mhm.
I happened to be, and it all worked out. But it's just crazy. I guess what I'm trying to say from this whole story of me babbling is that
That's good.
doing some things in life might not seem so rewarding at the moment,
Yeah.
but that's just, you don't that's just you don't know what the outcome is until you get to that point in your life. And if I never took that position as a student or president, I would have never been invited to this event to then be propelled to get this opportunity to be in the job that kind of fits exactly the lifestyle that I'm living.
Very true.
And so, in life, you just have to take those risks and hope for the best. But yeah, no, it was a really cool experience to be in Disney. And I got the interviews, and then I joined uh, the company that I'm with now. And then from there, really just trying to figure out, what's next.
100%.
Because I think I'm in a point in life where I continuously want to grow,
Yeah.
both personally and professionally. And so, I think a lot of life is momentum, right?
Yeah.
And people are
100%.
scared to lose momentum and slow down, which I get it. I am, and sometimes I'm doing that. But the reality is, it's like, it's just finding next, like what that is that you're chasing. Um, and I think it's not a bad thing. I think honestly, like having dreams, aspirations, and things to chase are
Yeah.
healthy. You just have to be mindful that it can't overtake your health, of course. You got to
Yeah.
sleep. You got to
100%.
get some sleep.
8 hours. 8 hours a
8 hours.
night.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good holistic overview of where I've been and what I've been doing and where I'm trying to go. I
Yeah.
think now my next thing is really real estate, investing more, and just having more for myself so I can get time back. Because ultimately, that's what matters the most, I think, is time.
Yeah. You're right. Time is the only thing we don't have control of, but you can make the most out of it. So we're gonna move. We're at 25 minutes. We're gonna move to the not so speed round. So it's supposed to be a speed round, but it's not so speedily because we're actually some somewhat tough questions. 4 questions. The first one is: are you underpaid or overpaid
Oh,
at your
sure,
current
sure.
position?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. In the military, I was definitely underpaid.
Yeah, I've heard
Uh, for for
it.
for this job that I made at being as a BDR, I would say I'd say it's average.
Okay, you're fairly
Um,
compensated. You're fairly compensated.
yeah, I mean, of course, do I want more? Yes,
Yeah,
right. But but like the way it is it's commit. So there's two pots. You got your salary and you got your commission, and so depending on the split, each company is different, of course. Some could be 70-30 or 60-40 or whatever it is. But within the commission bucket, you obviously have to hit 100% of your quota, and a lot of sales is metric based. And so that's the other thing. It's like overcompensate, undercompensate. You don't know because like your performance is based a lot on your commission.
yeah,
Your commission is based a lot on your performance, I mean. And,
yeah,
and so to me, if you can hit quota, I think I mean, it's fairly paid.
yeah,
I do think that once you get away from this entry level position to the next one, you can
mhm,
start scaling.
yeah.
And so I think that's the idea. It's not about getting the riches or being the richest now. It's about setting the right foundations so that you can scale.
So it's okay to be fairly compensated today or underpaid today as long as you're overpaid in the future.
And that's actually and that good way that you saw that out, because that's actually a really good point. There's this misconception that people, it's a bad thing to be underpaid, and
Yeah,
it's like a shame, and like you should be prideful, which I understand, but money should only be half of the value. Like, what are you really getting away from that job? Does it make you happy? Do you have good friends? Is it giving you the proper training? Is it giving you more than the job? If it gives you more, then where's your money really matter?
facts.
And so it's not a bad thing to be underpaid. It's a bad thing to not understand your value.
Yeah, and I think my thing for jobs is like if I stop learning from a job, then it presents no value to me anymore, no matter how much I'm getting paid from it. Because it's like
Exactly.
if you're not growing, you're dying. So if I'm not growing at a
Exactly.
job, I'm dying there. That's my thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What which journey has been more impactful in your life? Your Filipino upbringing, your journey in the military, or your college degree?
Um, let's see. What has been, say that again? What has
Oh,
been?
which has been more impactful in like your I guess your
Oh,
career
sure, sure,
journey?
sure, sure. Um, that's difficult because I think each parts of my life were so impactful in their own ways.
Yeah.
Where like it
Well,
kind of
which
built.
which one do you lean on more? I would
Sure,
say.
sure, sure, sure. Um, I I think I would definitely lean on more in the latter part of my life, right? Because when
Okay.
I was younger in the Philippines, I was a little too young to really comprehend the reality of life. I mean,
Yeah.
granted, yeah, I came from poverty, and a lot of my family still live in that poverty, and
Yeah.
the average wage there is less than $5 a day,
Mm,
and so there's just that a lot of the challenge that comes with that. But I think because of that, I became a stronger person.
yeah.
But I think where I lean a lot into is my time in the military, because I often, reflect back on it because it was such a life or death at times.
Mm.
or you know what I mean, or even just like some of the highest but lowest points in my life. And
Yeah.
so it's really just left ingrained. And in a way, I kind of I relate about my struggles in the military or my happiest times in the military to not also being in the corporate side of things and kind of having similar experiences, but just a
Yeah.
little bit different. You
Yeah.
know, we
Yeah.
laugh about other things now. We laugh about like stuff that happens in the Zoom calls.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We would do the same thing in the military. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But we would just be laughing about something different.
Yeah.
But and so I think the reason why why I wouldn't say that the transition has been super seamless. It's not that. I would say the transition from being a vet to in tech has been good for me is because in a way, I kind of found my tribe, as some would say.
Okay.
The
Okay.
people who make it worthwhile for you to come to work and do it every day. And I kind of found some of that, and so yeah, so I think about my time in the military because it was so not say recent. I mean, I got out, you know, years ago, so I think I'm over 4 or 5 years now. I think it was 2018, 2017 I got out. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, long story short, I mean, I depend and lean a lot about my experience in the military because that just made me the leader I am and the confidence I have.
Mm.
And for example, I mean, public speaking, right? Imagine when I was at Quantico OCS, I
Yeah.
mean, you had to instruct in front of hundreds of candidates.
Mm.
And,
Man.
and I was 21 years old. Imagining imagining it was literally, Will, death by PowerPoint. Like I was there clicking, all right. And then, when somebody fell asleep, you know what I would make them do? I would get their friend to wake him up by slapping on the back of the head. I'd be like, wake up your buddy, tell him to stand up, because he'd be
What?
sleeping in my class.
That's crazy. That's
But
that's a great skill set. I got a follow-up question on that. Then I have two more. But do you think? Because I mean, every person that I've met that's left the military has been like extremely focused, disciplined, and and honestly entrepreneurial. Do you think like? Do you think it would be beneficial for like every American, or not even American, just everyone in general, to join the military?
um, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's hard. That's difficult to
Yeah,
answer, right? I say yeah because of my experience and what it's done for me, but I
yeah,
ultimately don't know what's best for everybody.
true.
I would say it taught me a lot about life. It taught me a lot about death at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think having awareness of both is really important in life, but people can get it in different ways,
Yeah,
right? And that's the
sure.
idea. I do think there's this old Japanese ritual. It's called misogi. I don't know if I'm saying that right. If I'm completely butchering that, please in the comments, like I apologize. But the idea in misogi is that, you take one day out of the whole year to do something really difficult and challenging that makes a difference for the rest of the 364 days,
Mm.
right? So you do something really impactful, whatever that is for you. It's really challenging and hard. You do it that one day so that for the rest of the day of the year, it makes a big difference. And so I look at that as in the military, but the military was years of my life, right?
Yeah.
But I guess what I tell people is that go find your misogi for that one day out of the year, because once you have that day, I promise you, you're going to be disciplined and you're going to dedicate yourself to work hard towards that day. And you asked me a little bit about earlier, what did the military taught me a lot is discipline.
Mm.
And you can reflect that in so many ways, whether that's work, whether that's love, whether that's family, whether that's anything in life.
Yeah.
And so, to cut to short, it's just like find that day that you want to choose to do something really hard and stick to it and get after it, as David Goggins would say,
Yeah, we might
hit
have to have
hard.
a. We might. I actually have one of his books. I haven't started it yet, but I actually have one of his books. We might need to have a future conversation on discipline and love. That's like a really strong like statement, honestly, like in itself, like discipline and love. People don't really think about being disciplined to love, but that's a really good statement you made. All right, the second to the last question: one person, book, or event that changed the trajectory of your life.
Hmm. One person or book or event. That's a good one. That's a good one. Damn, I'm trying to figure out. To be honest with you, that's so difficult, Like there's so many. I think they're also wonderful.
The first one on your
Um,
mind, the first one you think of.
to be honest with you, I think losing my dad.
Mm,
I lost my
rest in
dad right
peace.
before my golden birthday. I was 5 years old, and he died
Yeah.
in October, and I was turning six in November. I was turning
Uh,
six that year. I think after losing my dad that early on in my life, I had to grow up really quickly.
yeah.
And then I also had to take care of my younger brother right away. My mom was getting ready to go home overseas, try to look for a job and opportunities. And so it was really a pivotal point in my life. But just losing him so early on just opened my eyes to the balance of life and death,
Yeah.
right? And the value of life, the value of living every day as if it's your last.
Yeah.
Because it was unexpected. And to be straightforward to you, he passed away in a car accident. He was a
Oh
civil
man.
engineer, and they were going up to work one day, and it was a crazy hill. A bus was coming down. They're in a pickup truck, and you know how like people hop in the back of the truck. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's like civil, you're engineering, like you work on
Yeah.
the roads, like civil work. And so
Yeah.
they were going to work, and he was the manager of that area, and he was in the back of the truck with his workers,
Mhm.
and the bus was coming down, this head-on collision, and everyone flew. I
Wow.
think it was 9 people that passed away that car crash. It was like one of
What?
those freak nature kind of a thing. And yeah, after that, I think a lot of my outlook on life has changed.
Yeah.
For a while I was really angry. I mean, it took me long to kind of get through that, but the reality is, someone said it once to me. When I was I was born and raised as a Catholic, and still sometimes I'm there, and I mean, of course, I believe in God,
Yeah.
type of thing. I
Yeah.
asked, I went to camp one, not camp, but
Yeah.
I had a family friend who was pastor, and I'd asked him, I was like, hey, if God is so good, why did He take my dad away? Really, that's the question I asked,
Yeah.
and he goes, who who are we? you know, who are we to judge? Who are we to judge the good and the bad?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I understand. And he was like, you might not understand now why God took your father or anything like that, but just understand this, that God took him for a bigger reason, in the sense of protecting him from an evil that was going to come or is coming, or whatever it is. And as
Yeah.
a kid, I needed that to better put that together, and piece it together, what that meant for me.
Yeah.
And so it was good that I got some peace and clarity through that conversation. But I think ultimately having, losing my dad that early, it was like a compounding effect the rest of my life. But yeah,
Mhm.
so on a good note, I mean, he still made me the person I am, and I
Yeah.
know he's proud of the things that I've accomplished,
Yeah.
and I have a great loving family, my mom, my siblings, and my stepdad, and so I don't take it. I'm not sad, or I'm not angry, or I don't have those negative emotions anymore. I just
Yeah.
feel really blessed to be alive, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. Gotta take the good from the bad, man. Like the not everything's all good, not everything's all bad. It's crazy. It's hard to think that way, but you gotta think that way, honestly. The last question is, how would someone become a BDR if they have a degree, and then how would someone become a BDR if they didn't have a degree? And give us like it can be like a quick like 4 steps for each one, or 3 steps.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll start off with getting a degrry, right?
Yeah,
Because that's
yeah,
probably the easier route.
yeah,
So how to do that? Obviously get whatever degree you want. I would then, utilize different hiring tools, Indeed, LinkedIn, ways to get on just a job search, job market.
yeah,
And the way I would do it, I would create an Excel sheet, put all the links of the different job descriptions that you want to look into in there. And so that way you can keep track of all the different things you want to apply for. And ultimately then look at, who's the hiring manager? Who do I know in my network? Who could I look into in this company that I might know I'm that interested in, and that I want to get it, join this role for something similar. And so I would say the biggest thing is like once you're looking at the job search, it's also looking for prospects and contacts who are doing the job that you're looking to do. Because I mean, why not hear it from the horse's mouth or what's
Yeah.
really happening and how it really is. And so that's one thing I would do is utilize engines like that, like LinkedIn, Indeed. There's so many different ones. And then from there, ultimately you're going to have maybe about 4, 5 rounds of interviews.
Okay.
Um, you got to get ready for those. And then from there, depending on where you are, remote or hybrid, that's the one case. But is that something, is that a little bit what you were looking for?
Yeah, and then let's go a little bit in depth, like about like the interview types. I mean,
Sure, sure.
we all know like the recruiter call, like just some prep
Yeah,
shit.
yeah,
But I guess
absolutely.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe like the last two, or maybe even
Yeah,
the last
absolutely.
three.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think the first are just as important as the last interviews, right?
Okay.
Because any interviews you go into, you should make it as the closing interview because if you can close it in less interviews, why wait till the last interview?
Definitely.
And so for me, it was only 3 interviews really to get to where I want to be.
Okay.
But the way it worked was there was an intro interview, and then I then had to do an interview with some of the teams or like some of the people that were already in the role, just to
Mhm.
better understand the role and see if I would be a good fit, right? Because like a lot of what we do is working in teams and being
Yeah.
collaborative and having that camaraderie.
Mm.
And so that was another interview, and then past that was pretty much like a product overview pitch
Okay.
as well as a cold call pitch,
Mm.
and just really getting to know you better on a deeper level with like the director of that department or the hiring managers, bosses, so the higher executives. Um, and then past that, if there's even more interviews, there's going to be technical rounds as well. I mean, that could actually go before as well. It really depends on which organizations you're applying for and the department that you're working with.
Yeah.
But expect to have some sort of technical round, some
Mm.
sort of um, Q&A in your personal and seeing if you're a good fit for the bigger picture and the
Mm.
bigger organization round. And then intro interview, of course. And then past that, each company does it very differently.
Definitely. That was a great answer. And I mean, I think it's very similar for when you don't have a degree. It's kind of just probably like just got to be a little bit of a hustler, honestly.
Yeah, I think, I mean, granted, where we are now, there's so many jobs you don't need a degree for, and it's amazing, it's great.
Yeah.
I would say that you could do that with this job. It's just going to be an uphill battle
Yeah.
because everybody else who's applying does have that degree. And
Yeah.
so when hiring managers look at it, not saying they always look at that,
Yeah.
but if you do choose to go in this role without that, make sure that you have a lot of great meat and potatoes in that resume to showcase that you're a great salesperson. Because the reality is, you're a salesperson and you're going to be looking to sell that product and that solution to
Yeah.
customers and create business.
Yeah.
Um, and so finding ways to, you know, be a good salesperson, but also deliver that on paper
Yeah.
is critical if you are going into it without a degree, and really having a champion on the inside that can maybe voice for you.
Yeah.
And so you might just need a little bit more, but I wouldn't say it's impossible.
Yeah. The greatest sell is selling yourself. Like if you know how to sell yourself, like you said, that meat and potatoes, you better have some sales, some B2B sales experience, something. You better be doing a lot
Even,
outside.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you have closing experience, oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like they'll look at you if you have actual closing experience on paper.
Yeah, like you said, it'd be an uphill battle, but nothing's impossible, especially in this kind of market. A lot of startups are hiring.
Mhm.
If I didn't have a degree, I would definitely aim for the startups first, not the bigger established like tech companies, because the startups are looking for hunters. And yeah, you can be working a lot. You probably get paid a little less, but like Lawrence and I said earlier, being underpaid is not necessarily bad. It's just a place on the staircase.
Mhm.
But I know we're almost 45 minutes in. Lawrence, it was great. We will have you back several times. Give everyone like your social medias or where they can find you at so they can reach out to you. They want to talk about like being a vet in tech
Sure,
or trying
sure,
to get in
sure.
tech.
Yeah, absolutely. Good thing you asked me about that. I actually, I'm starting my own business myself
Nice.
and trying to do my own little thing. I'll keep
Nice.
that in wraps for now, but
Yeah.
I guess for socials or where to catch me, I mean, on my YouTube channel is first, like number one, and then st dot or first gen dot films. So first gen, just because I was the first generation coming to America, I was like, I gotta put that. But so I got that on YouTube, and then LinkedIn, of course. My name, Lawrence, Lorence. My last name, Ayag, Ayag. And so really just connect with me. I mean, just give a shout out if you're watching this and you want to learn a little bit more. Like, and if you connect, let's hop on a quick call. I mean, to me, sharing wealth is greater than having wealth all to yourself. Because the people don't understand is the more you have, the less people you have around you, and I never want to be that at the end of the day.
Definitely.
It gets lonely at the top.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
and, and so yeah, those are my social medias. Are those are the only two I really have. I mean, the other two, Instagram and all that, I don't really. I just kind of keep that private and just
Yeah, of course.
simple. The other thing too would be, yeah, if you LinkedIn would be the best. LinkedIn would be
Okay,
the best, actually.
perfect. I'll put the links to the YouTube and LinkedIn in the description too. Thank you for joining us today, Lawrence. This was a great interview. You're gonna be back for several more in-depth VDR that we're gonna have a lot of different topic sales. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you for joining us today. Please like, comment, subscribe. For the unknown options for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Cheers.